Finally Shantae sighed as she arrived in the hypno baron's inner sanctum. What's with all those stupid eye and door puzzles? And all those death traps and keys and that creepy skull key thing? Just how can a person live in a place like this? Seriously. And why are these places always so much bigger on the inside than the outside? She knew her complaining wasn't going to get her anywhere, but venting her anger was calming her down. At least I rediscovered the mermaid dance. That's something. I guess she took in the sight of the room. The floors and pillars were blood-red, and the only source of light seemed to be a lantern hanging from a chain in the ceiling. She could just make out the silhouette of a man in a robe. The robe looked to be blue with gold rims, with a hood that concealed the figure's face quite nicely. The figure cackled as she approached. Seriously? Shantae thought, rolling her eyes. Skull keys, skeleton minions, death traps, and now a red room and a cloak. This guy seriously needs to lay off on the gothic horror theme. You must be the genie, looking for the magic seals. Yes, he asked in an unexpectedly friendly tone. That's right, she said defiantly, thoroughly unimpressed by her next opponent. You have to, and now you're here for the final one. You've outsmarted Risky Boots. You're very, very smart. Shantae didn't know what to say. She couldn't tell if he was legitimately complimenting her or trying to throw her off. She opted to remain silent. She will never be able to restore the magic lamp now, the Baron declared. You are a hero. The townspeople will thank you. Shantae pictured the people of Scuttletown finally accepting her and throwing a grand parade in her honor. She smiled at the image. Then a thought occurred to her. This was the Hypno Baron. She snapped out of her reverie and put on a defiant front. Is this a mind game? If you've got something to say it, but your uncle. He is keeping secrets from you somehow. Shantae found herself starting to believe the Baron's words. Uncle Mimic? No. He wouldn't keep secrets from me, would he? He wouldn't he? He is a resident of Scuttletown. The people of Scuttletown have never appreciated your efforts, no matter how many times you save them from Risky Boots. They lie safe in their beds thanks to you, yet they never appreciate you. But I can change that. You can? Shantae was swaying slightly, having trouble forming coherent thoughts. Could I lie to you? I only want what's best for you, my dear. All I ask for in return is that you listen to what I have to say. Okay, she stuttered, barely able to get the words out. Her mind was swirling with thoughts, some that told her not to listen, that he was trying to trick her, and some that said he could be trusted, that he wouldn't lie to her. You are a smart girl. You see, that I'm here to help you. Yes. Shantae nodded in agreement and a dopey smile spread across her lips. If you want them to appreciate you, all you need to listen to me. To accept what I tell you without question. To obey me, oh obey you, the half-genie replied, as her eyes glazed over lifelessly. Yes, the Hypno Baron is your friend. The Hypno Baron is my friend. Yes, the Hypno Baron is your master. The Hypno Baron is my master. No, I must resist. Shantae's resistance showed in her tired, worried expression. No, my dear. Resisting won't make the townspeople accept you. Resisting will make them hate you. Hate me? Yes. But obeying will make them love you. Obeying is the right choice. Obey Hypno Baron. Shantae's smile returned as she began to embrace the idea of obedience. Yes, obey the Hypno Baron. Obey your master. I shall obey the Hypno Baron. I shall obey my master. Her tone was happy and sleepy as she gave in. Good girl. Obeying is the right choice. You've made the right choice. Shantae's smile grew wider. The Baron cupped Shantae's chin and looked into her glassy eyes. He was pleased with his work. You are not the first to have come here and realized the joys of servitude. You are the latest in a long line of servants of the Hypno Baron. You must be pleased. Yes, pleased to obey. Shantae replied happily. Then you must show the Hypno Baron your loyalty or he will not help you. Shantae's smile faded as a desperate, pleading expression took over. Oh, please, master. I'll do anything to prove my loyalty. The Hypno Baron knew exactly what he was going to have her do. You are a genie, are you not? I'm a half-genie, master. Then you must be able to grant my wishes. I'm sorry, master. Half-genies have very limited magic. Disappointed, the Hypno Baron sighed. In that case you are to become a zombie for my amusement, as you wish. Master. Shantae closed her eyes, and when she reopened them, she smiled at the Baron. Hey, snack cakes, she greeted playfully. Snack cakes, the Baron asked, confused. A hooded robe. How mysterious. She quickly pulled his hood back to reveal the skull beneath. The Hypno Baron was too confused to stop her. You're kind of cute, even with a big bone forehead. Say, you don't happen to have a nice, tasty brain in there, do ya? The Baron pulled his hood back. A brain? Yes, a brain. If not, you at least got some coffee? I need it to keep my great intellect intact. She looked down at her body. And why am I dressed like Shantae? I like your sense of fashion, but I prefer my own clothes. Because you are Shantae, the Baron replied. No, I'm not. My name's Rotty Tops. The Baron face-bombed. When I told you to become a zombie, I didn't mean a specific zombie. I meant a hypno zombie. A hypno zombie? She looked confused at first, but a slight grin soon overtook form. "Oh, you're into that kinda thing, are ya?" She sniggered. "All that yes, master stuff? Hey, do you prefer to be the dom or the sleep?" the Baron commanded. Shantae immediately stopped mid-sentence and returned to her trance. The Baron rubbed the rim of his nose hole in irritation. He just couldn't figure out why Shantae had interpreted his command the way she had. Perhaps there was still a part of her that was resisting, and this was an act of defiance that didn't really matter though. She'd still been convinced she was a zombie, and she'd also gone back under on command. It seemed another test was in order. If you're half genie, then you must know how to dance. "Yes, master, I'm very good at dancing." "Then show the Hypno Baron what you can do to make up for that." "Yes, master." "Your wish is my command." Shantae opened her eyes and stared blankly ahead. She began her sensual performance by slowly moving her hips from side to side, stiffly at first. Her arms were stretched out at her sides and her hips were moving out as far as they could go, then back again. As she went on, she seemed to lose herself in the dance more and more over time. Her movements became more fluid, almost water-like. Her hips swung more and more each time, until they were moving round and round in a nice, even circle. Her glassy eyes closed and a smile spread across her lips, as she began to enjoy performing the dance just as much as her master did watching it. She was in a kind of secondary trance, her body moving almost by itself, as her entire existence became dedicated to her dance, something that often happened to her when practicing at home. Even in her deep, hypnotic trance, Shantae loved the feeling of dancing, just as she loved the feelings it stirred in others. Many other women in Scuttletown envied her primarily because of her ability, and somehow that made her happy. Especially now, knowing that her dance that stirred such adoration in men and such envy in women was being used to please her master. Her arms drifted slowly together until her hands were clasped together in front of her chest, her hips maintaining their steady circle, not breaking it for a second. Her long, purple hair flowed with her movements, like a pendulum swaying evenly behind her back. After a few revolutions, her body titled back, facing to the side, her hips rising and falling like her chest would when taking deep, steady breaths. Although her eyes were glassy and lifeless, she seemed to be staring lovingly at her master as she shook her hips. Her smile was one of enjoyment and appreciation, enjoyment of the dance she was allowed to perform, the dance, and appreciation for her master, who allowed her to perform it for him. Back to the first phase, her arms out and her hips gyrating. This time, She was much more into it. Her smile was wider, her movement was more lively and beautiful. Her master watched, captivated by the dancer, and deep down, a part of her knew what effect she was having on her master. And she loved it, snapping out of his reverie and ready to move on to the next stage of his fun. Her master commanded her to stop. Her hands had just clasped together for second phase. Repeat, yes, master, she groaned, as she stopped her dance. There was a bright light that blinded the Baron momentarily. Unbeknownst to the hypno Baron, Shantae had the power inherited from her mother. Her dance was the catalyst for her power of transformation. Once his vision cleared, he saw that in the young genie's place was an elephant. The elephant looked somehow similar to Shantae. Its most striking feature was its eyes. Its clear and unglassy eyes. Its very angry eyes that were staring daggers into the Baron, nearly soiling his trousers. The Baron fled, followed shortly behind by Elephant Shantae. The inner sanctum was a very small room, leaving few places he could hide. Even up atop the two central pillars wasn't out of reach for the vengeful elephant, and he was eventually cornered. Shantae transformed back to her normal form and stood over him, ready to deliver justice for his crime. Any last words before I finish you? Shantae asked, angrily, having no other option. The Baron stared at the girl and said, just this, look into my eyes. His eyes shifted into spirals, and Shantae was too taken aback to avert her own. She stared into his spiraling eyes and felt herself slipping away. Not again, she managed, before being hit by a huge wave of drowsiness, so sleepy she could barely keep her eyes open to stare into the Baron's eyes. Must resist, but it was futile. Shantae's eyelids felt as heavy as lead weights. Unable to remain open, her eyes closed and her head slumped against her chest. The Baron slowly got to his feet and cautiously asked, "S.H. Shantae? Can you hear me?" "Yes, master. I hear and I obey." All emotion was gone from Shantae's voice as she succumbed once more to the Baron's power. "Open your eyes, but remain in your trance," the Baron commanded, still not completely convinced. "As you command, Master." Shantae raised her head and opened her eyes, which were narrowed in yellow spirals. The Baron wiped his brow in relief. He felt it best to get rid of her and avoid her breaking free and beating him up. In truth, the confident, calm mastermind was just a ruse. He was actually a complete coward. He feared pain and learned hypnosis so he could avoid conflict. Shantae was here for the magic seal he held in his possession, and she wouldn't leave until she had it. He took the item out of his robe and handed it to her. She levitated into the air, spinning slowly with her arms raised into the air. After a few seconds, She descended until her feet touched the floor and her arms lowered. "I want you to take this and leave my tower," the Baron commanded. "When you hear the gate close behind you, you will awaken from your trance with no memory of being hypnotized. You will believe that your strong will won out and you defeated me in battle. Do you understand?" "Yes, Master, I will forget." Shantae put the seal away and, arms raised, marched out the door. That was a close one. The Baron sighed and went back to what he was doing. Before Shantae arrived, Shantae continued back through the tower in her zombie-like march. On the way out, she passed by the save guy. "Would you like to save a record of your journey?" he asked. "Yes, Master, I would like to save the entrance," Genie replied. Once the process was complete, Shantae resumed her march. "Kids," the old man said, shaking his head, as she left. Once she got outside, the hypno tower's gate closed behind her and she stood in her trance for a few moments before she awoke and shook her head to clear it. Images of the Hypno Baron's mind games failing and his transformation into a fake Uncle Mimic ran through her mind, as did the simplicity of his tactics. That was surprisingly easy. I expected a guy who calls himself the Hypno Baron to try and hypnotize me. Oh, well,